in this class, we will focus on what are the issues we have in decision tree algorithm and how to overcome those issues. We have basically 5 major issues in decision tree learning. The first is called as, when you work with the decision tree, you will get something called as overfitting of the data. And you should see how to avoid the overfitting of data by following certain measures. That is the first issue you have to consider. And the second issue is, so far we have seen examples where we have taken the attributes with discrete values. Like we have seen the example of play tennis. In that, the attributes are, if you consider the outlook, it has sunny, rainy, and so on. So those attributes are discrete values. Is it possible to have attributes with continuous value? If so, how to implement the decision tree? That is the second issue you have to consider. For example, if one of the attribute in the decision tree is age, in age you don't have any discrete value. One of the student will have age as 20, another will have 21, another will have 22. All are continuous values only. So in that case, we need to go for some other way of representation that we have to consider as a second issue. And the third issue is, other than the information gain and then the entropy, we have seen we have one more measure, that is Gini index. Other than that, do we have any other measure for selecting the attribute, which is nothing but selecting the root node of that particular decision tree? So what are the alternative measures we have for selecting the attributes? That we have to consider as the third issue. And the next is, if you have any missing attributes, how to handle it when you go for the decision tree representation. That also you have to consider. And the next one is, if you have many attributes in your data set, all the attributes are not going to be of equal importance. Some of the attribute will be more important and the other will be less important. In that case, when you are forming the decision tree, how you are going to give importance to the attributes? Because they are going to have different cost. So how to handle those attributes? So now let us see what is the meaning of overfitting. Here it says that if you have capital H, that is nothing but set of hypotheses, it will contain so many hypotheses which satisfy your data set. Let us assume that I have 2 hypotheses, H and H dash. Okay, and when I develop the hypothesis, I will find the error for that particular hypothesis. So the error can be computed in different phases. In any machine learning algorithm, we will have training phase, then testing phase. Those two are the very important phases. So what is the difference between training phase and testing phases? In case of training phase, you will train the machine, you will give input to the machine, and you will come up with the model. And this model is developed only with the help of examples given during the training. And you will have some accuracy in the training. Later, when you want to test new samples, and if you want to know what is the accuracy of the model you have developed for an unknown example, you will give an unknown example that is nothing but your testing data. Okay, so if we have 2 hypotheses, H and H dash, in case of overfitting, what is going to happen is the hypothesis H is going to have less error when compared to hypothesis H dash during training. That means that for the training data set, hypothesis H is performing better than H dash. Then during training, if the hypothesis is performing good, it has to perform good during testing also. But in case of overfitting, what is going to happen is, even though H is performing better in training phase, in testing phase, it will not perform better when compared to H dash. But during testing, what is going to happen is the error of hypothesis H is greater than error of the hypothesis H dash. So what you can say, when you compare 2 hypotheses H and H dash, H is performing only for the training data set, whereas for the testing data set, it is not performing good. So what is done here? During training, you have learned some concept to a level which is more than the required level. Because of that, whatever new sample is given to you, you are predicting that wrongly. Because about one concept, you have learned too much. So whatever is given to you, you are going to predict other concepts wrongly. So that is called as overfitting. Now let us see the definition of overfitting. So given a hypothesis space H and hypothesis small h belong to capital H is said to overfit the training data if there exists some other alternative hypothesis H dash that also belong to the set of hypotheses such that H has smaller error than H dash over training examples, whatever I have given here. But H dash has smaller error than H over the entire distribution of instances. What is the meaning of entire distribution of instances? Training plus testing plus unknown new examples also. So when you consider only training, H is performing good. But when you consider everything altogether, H dash is performing better than H. That means that H is overfitted to the training data set. So now let us see what is happening in ID3 algorithm with respect to this overfitting. So the ID3 algorithm grows each branch of the tree deeply enough to perfectly classify the training examples. The meaning is, in case of ID3 algorithm, we don't know what is the number of levels in the tree, because at the leaf level, we should have only the pure target classes like yes or no, but the internal nodes will be decision nodes. So we don't know what is the depth of the tree. The depth of the tree will be as much as possible to cover the entire training samples. So the ID3 algorithm is growing and each branch of the tree will be deep so as to cover the training example and classify them perfectly. And in this case, what is going to happen is sometimes it may create overfitting when there is noise in the data. So noise is nothing but you are entering the data wrongly. Okay, so the wrong data is going to act as a noise for your input. Or when the number of training example is too small to produce a representative sample of the true target function. This overfitting happens when the learning algorithm continues to develop the hypothesis that reduces the error on the training set, whereas it is increasing the error on the testing set. That is the thing we have seen in the previous slide. Now, how the random noise is going to create overfitting? Let's see that with an example. Now, you consider this particular diagram. Here, I am going to add one more instance. For example, I am going to add this particular instance. Outlook is equal to sunny, temperature is equal to hot, humidity is equal to normal, wind is equal to strong, and play tennis is equal to no. If actually in the original instance, play tennis is equal to yes. So that means that it is a positive example. This particular example is a positive example. But while entering the data in the database, by mistake, the person is entering play tennis as no. That means originally it is positive example, but we are entering that as a negative example. Now, what is going to happen if this particular row is added as a 15th row in the database? That is during the training process. So now you consider this Outlook is equal to sunny. It will start with the root node. Outlook is sunny. So it will take this branch. Then it will check for humidity. What is the humidity here? Humidity is normal. Okay. So it will check humidity is normal. That means that it is predicting the class as yes. Okay. But what you are giving in this, you are giving play tennis is equal to no. You are adding 15th row with the play tennis is equal to no, which is not covered in this hypothesis. Okay. In this decision tree. So what is going to happen is, in order to cover this particular training example, the decision tree will be again expanded. Because of that, whenever there is some mistake in your examples, that is training examples, the decision tree will be expanded. Okay, that is the main drawback in this. Suppose if your original data is error-free in the sense, originally play tennis was yes only. Okay, if that is correctly entered, that is already covered in this, so decision tree will not be expanded. This is now going to create a more complex decision tree. Because of this only, we will say that when there is a random noise in your training example, that is leading to overfitting in the data, because the decision tree is trying to learn unknown wrong data also. How this overfitting has happened in the decision tree. So now you can consider here when the number of nodes in the decision tree is increasing. So what is the meaning of size of the tree? It's nothing but how many decision nodes you have in your tree. Okay. So when the number of decision nodes are increasing here, and that is plotted in the x-axis, and then in the y-axis, accuracy of the system is plotted, and the training data accuracy and then testing data accuracy is also plotted. So from this graph, what we can understand is when your number of nodes in the decision tree is increasing on the training data, this one is the solid line is the training data. Okay, in the training data, when the number of nodes are increasing, first accuracy is increasing. Okay, and here also the accuracy is increasing, but the increase is less. Whatever may be the case, during the training phase, when the number of nodes in the decision tree are increasing, the accuracy of the system is increasing. But you can consider this one, testing accuracy. What is the testing accuracy? Initially, the testing accuracy is increasing Here you can see this part, it is increasing. And in this also it is increasing. After that it is becoming steady. Then the accuracy is decreasing. So what is the meaning is, your data set, whatever you have given, it is performing better during the training, okay? And your hypothesis is not performing better for the testing data. This is happening only because of the overfitting. So now how to avoid this overfitting in the decision tree? For that, two approaches are followed. The first approach is, don't allow the tree to grow fully. Stop growing the tree earlier before it reaches the point where it perfectly classifies the training data. Why we are getting overfitting? Because in overfitting for the training data, it is learning everything perfectly. Because of that only, it is learning the wrong things also. If there is a noise in the training data, it is learning the wrong things also. So don't allow the tree to grow fully. You stop the tree growing at the earlier stage before it reaches the point where it perfectly classifies the training data. That is one approach. And the second approach is, you allow your tree to grow fully, allow it to overfit the data. After that, you are going to do something called as pruning the tree. Pruning is nothing but removing the nodes one by one from the tree. While you are removing, you will make sure that your accuracy of the system is improved. It should not be reduced. So that is the second approach. We are going to see these two approaches now. And out of these approaches, the first approach is difficult to estimate precisely, because you have to understand when you have to stop growing the tree. Here, you're not allowing the tree to grow fully. So you have to stop at some place. So you should understand whether you can stop when the height of the tree is 3, or you can stop when the height of the tree is 5, and so on. So you should be very careful in that. So it is difficult to estimate. So I generally prefer the second approach because we can use it in practice. So always we are using the second approach to avoid overfitting. That is nothing but you will allow the tree to grow fully. You will allow it to overfit with the data. After that, you are going to prune certain nodes from the tree. That is, you are going to remove certain nodes. Now let us see these two. So now, what are the criteria you have to determine the correct final tree size? So in this, whenever we want to determine what is the final tree size, we can use separate set of examples which are distinct from the training examples to evaluate which nodes we are going to remove. Because here we told that we are going to remove certain nodes. So which node you are going to remove? For that, we need to separate our examples into two different examples. One is called as training set and the second one is called as validation set. So far we have seen that we have only the training examples. Now we are going to divide our examples into training example and then validation example. So that is the approach we are going to follow in this. This is one of the things. And you can also use the second one. Use all the data available with you for the training, but you are going to apply a statistical test like the chi-square test to determine whether the expanding process or pruning a process of a particular node is going to provide any improvement when you have done with respect to the training set. So what is the second point is, here you are not going to divide your data into training and validation set as the first case. Instead, you are going to use all the data only for the training, but you are going to use chi-square test or similar test. And with that test, you will estimate if I prune a particular node, will the accuracy be improved or decreased? If it is improved, you will go for pruning, or otherwise you will not go for pruning. That is the second one. And third one is, instead of using some statistical approach, you can also use some heuristic based approach. Now let us see how this training and validation set approach is going to work. So in this, whatever data is available with you, you are going to divide that into two sets. One is called as training set and the other is called as validation set. And this training set purposes, this will be used for the learning the model. That is nothing but it is used to form the learned hypothesis. Here, the hypothesis is our model. That is nothing but the decision tree. So that is the use of the training set. And what is the use of the validation set? It is not used for developing the decision tree. Instead, the training set will be used for developing the decision tree. Once you develop the decision tree, you want to know what is the accuracy of the tree developed. For that, to evaluate the accuracy of the hypothesis or the decision tree, we will use this validation set. Okay, so with the help of this validation set only, we are going to go for pruning of the remaining samples. And so here we can say that the validation set is going to provide a safety check against overfitting of the training set. Okay, and one more thing is the validation set should be large enough to provide statistically significant sample of the instances. That means that you have developed one tree with 3 or 4 possible outcomes. Instead of yes and no, assume that I have 3 or 4 possible outcomes. I want to test the accuracy of that particular decision tree. So if I take only 2 examples, it may not be good enough to estimate the perfectness of the tree developed. So your validation set should also be large enough to provide a statistically significant sample of all the instances. So the common heuristic they are using is whatever is your data set, use 1/3 of the available examples for validation and remaining 2/3 for training. Now let us see the first method, reduced error pruning. So in this, you are going to consider each node of the decision tree. That is the decision node only, not the leaf node. Consider each decision node of the tree to be candidate for pruning. So what is pruning here? Pruning is nothing but it consists of removing the subtree rooted at a particular node. So I'll take a subtree, whichever is the root of the subtree, I'll remove the node. So when you remove the node, what do you have to do with that node? You have to make that node as a leaf node. When you remove it, make it as a leaf node. After that, if a node is a leaf node, you have to assign the classification label to that. For example, yes or no, you have to assign the label. So from where I will get the label? Because it is actually a root node. I have removed it and made it as a leaf node. Now I need to assign a label to that. The label is nothing but whatever is the most common classification of the training example. That is nothing but whichever is occurring frequently, that you can assign as a label for that particular node. So this is a strategy they are using in this. And when you remove the node, you have to be very careful. Suppose after you remove the node, you have to calculate the gain again. If it is not better than the original one, don't remove it. Keep it as such. You will remove a node only if the new tree is creating more accuracy. That is our aim. Our aim is we want to avoid the overfitting. So for that, the nodes are removed only if the resulting prune tree perform better than the original tree for the validation set. And the pruning of the nodes continues until further pruning is harmful. If you, at a point of time, if you find that accuracy is not improving, don't do that. Stop it. And here, using a separate set of data to guide the pruning is an effective approach because we are providing a separate set so that you are estimating the accuracy of the model with the unknown example. Okay, but for this we need a larger amount of data available. Otherwise, we cannot do this one. So the major drawback of this approach is it works well if your data set is large, but if the data is limited in size, you're going to keep some part of the data for validation set. Therefore, you are reducing the amount of data available for the training. Okay, so when the training examples are less, the model will not learn good. Okay, so you can use this method only if you have large amount of data available with you. Otherwise, if you have only less number of examples, don't go for this pruning method at all. Now let us see what is the impact of the reduced error pruning by ID3 algorithm. So here, the first 2 graphs are similar. This is the first one, solid line is training during the training accuracy. And if you consider this one, this bottom line, it is the accuracy during the testing. Now we are improving the overfitting with the help of pruning model. So they have plotted the graph and they found that once you prune the decision tree, after the new tree is developed with the help of validation data set, the accuracy for the training testing data, you can see here, this dotted line represents accuracy on the testing data during the pruning. That is like this. So what I can conclude from this one is, without pruning, during testing, the accuracy is decreasing here. Okay, but if I prune the nodes during testing, when compared to this, the graph accuracy you can consider here, the accuracy is more when compared to this one. Okay, so the effect of pruning is nothing but whenever we do pruning, we can reduce overfitting of the data set. Because of that, we can improve more accuracy during testing phase also. Now, let us consider the second method that is called as rule post pruning. In case of rule post pruning, what we are going to do is we are going to construct the rules from the decision tree. So we are going to infer the decision tree from the training set, and we will allow the tree to grow until the training data is fit, and we will allow the overfit to occur in the second case. In the first case, we will not allow the overfit to occur, but here we will allow the overfit to occur. And after that, whatever is the learned decision tree, you are going to convert the learned decision tree into equivalent set of rules by creating one rule for each path from the root node to the leaf node. If you have 5 paths in your decision tree, you have to construct 5 different rules. And after you construct all the rules, you are going to prune each rule by removing any precondition so that accuracy is improved. Here you are going to remove the condition only. When you do that, if the accuracy is improved, you remove it. If it is not improved, you keep it as such. Okay. So in this, after you prune, and if you say that accuracy is improving one by one, then you're going to sort all the pruned rules in their estimated accuracy, and you are going to consider them in the sequence. That is nothing but the rule with the highest accuracy will be considered first, then the rule with the second highest accuracy, and so on. When you see any new examples. Okay, so this is a rule for the rule post pruning. Now let us consider what is going to happen in this. So now this is a decision tree. So in this, if you consider this decision tree, there are 5 different paths. The first path is this one. Outlook is equal to sunny, humidity is equal to high. Okay, so in that case, the output is nothing but no. This is one of the rule. That rule is written here. If outlook is equal to sunny and humidity is equal to high, this is called as the precondition. Then play tennis is equal to no. This is called as post condition. Okay, so here we have 2 terms. One is precondition and the other is post condition. So what is precondition and post condition is? So here for every branch of the tree, you are going to generate one rule, and each attribute test along the path from the root to the leaf node becomes a rule antecedent. That is nothing but precondition. So in this, you see here, from the root node, I have outlook is equal to sunny, humidity is equal to high. Then I am reaching the leaf node. So now this is my precondition or otherwise antecedent. So I am writing this. And then the classification at the leaf node becomes a rule consequent. That is nothing but here we have the classification, that is no, that is a rule consequent. So you write this first. Once you finish it, what are you going to do is, each such rule is pruned by removing any antecedent or precondition. Okay, so here the precondition is this one. You are going to remove the precondition, and when you remove it, you have to calculate the accuracy again. The accuracy should not be reduced. If the accuracy is improving, then you can remove that rule. Okay, so that is the final point of this. And when you find that there is no improvement in the accuracy, no pruning is performed because it is reducing the accuracy of our model. So in this, you list all the rules and you remove the preconditions one by one, then estimate what is the accuracy of the new tree. If the accuracy is improving, go on removing other preconditions also. Finally, if you find that accuracy is not improving, stop with that. That is going to give you a final tree. Then in that, list all the rules one by one according to the decreasing order of the accuracy. That is nothing but whichever accuracy is highest, that should be written first. Then with the help of that, you can classify the new examples. Now let us consider the second one, incorporating continuous valued attributes. So far we have seen that we will have only discrete value attributes for your target attribute, like play tennis. It is having 2 values only, yes and no. And also for our original attributes, that is nothing but outlook, then windy, temperature. For those also we had only discrete values. That is the case we have seen in the ID3 example. Now a question comes, can we have continuous valued decision attributes like temperature? Instead of having hot, cool, I can say 30 degree, 40 degree, 45 degree, and so on. Okay. Can I have a continuous value for the decision attribute? If so, how to develop the tree? That is the next question. So for this, we are going to dynamically define new discrete valued attributes. Even for the continuous attribute, you are going to define a new discrete value attribute, and that attribute is going to partition the continuous attribute into discrete set of intervals. For example, for age, instead of having the age as all the possible values, I can say that adult, adolescence, then senior citizen, and so on. Okay, so instead of having all the continuous values, I am going to have discrete set of values. With that, I can achieve it. And in this, when I can say that a particular person is adult, or when I can say that a particular person is senior citizen. For that, I need to pick a threshold. Okay, so in this, you have to pick a threshold C, and that threshold should give you highest information gain, because the ID3 algorithm is based upon information gain only. So you have to pick a threshold that should produce highest information gain. So in this, for continuous valued attribute A, now we are going to choose a new Boolean attribute A, and this attribute will be true if the value of A is less than the threshold you have selected. Otherwise, it will be false. Now, how to select the best value for this particular threshold is C. Now, let us consider this in the next slide. Now, you consider that we have the temperature. In the temperature, we are having continuous values now. It is not a discrete, it is a continuous value, because you can see different possible values are present in this. Not some labels like hot, cool, and so on. So now, how to achieve this in case of a decision tree, and how to define the threshold. So the question is now, what threshold based Boolean attribute should be defined based upon the temperature? So for that, what is the approach you have to do is, whatever is your example given, you have to sort all the examples according to the continuous attribute A in the ascending order. Okay, here it is already sorted. If it is not sorted, you have to sort the temperature, because it is a continuous variable. In the ascending order, you sort it. After you sort it, now go to the target class. In the target class, you see wherever there is a match between subsequent records. Here you see the first record is no, the second record is also no. So there is match only. Now you have to see for the mismatch. Here I have no, but in this I have yes. So I have the first mismatch here. Okay, when the temperature is 48, I'm not preferring to play tennis, but when the temperature is given as 60, I'm preferring playing tennis. Therefore, here there is a mismatch in the target class. You have to consider this. Now take average of these two values. So the average of two values is 48 plus 60 divided by 2. Now that is 54. That is going to give you the first threshold. Now check other instances also. Next is S, and this is also yes. So there is a match. Then check this one, S and S, there is a match. Now you consider 80 and 90. For 80 it is yes, but for 90 it is no. There is a mismatch. So when the target class is differing, you have to find the average of those two instances. So now I have to consider the second threshold, that is 80 plus 90 divided by 2, that is 85. Found that there are two thresholds, one is 54, another is 85. Now, since there are two thresholds, how you are going to select the root node? Which one you can select as the root node? Again, you have to construct the decision tree with these two thresholds. You have to see which is giving you more information gain. Whichever is giving you more information gain, you keep that as a root node for dividing the entire tree. For example, in this, I found that the temperature is 54. This is a threshold. I will check the first record. It is 40. 40 is less than 54. So 40 will be now inserted as a left subtree. And then next is 48. That is also less than 54. So that will be inserted as a left subtree. Then the remaining things, 60, 72, 80, and 90, all these values are greater than 54. They will be inserted as a right subtree. With that tree, I'll calculate the information gain. Then I will construct one more tree with 85 as a root node. I will construct the tree. In that, the records with 40, 48, 60, 72, 80, all these things are less than 85. So they will go to the left subtree, and 90 is greater than 85. It will go to the right subtree. For this also, I will construct the decision tree. I will find the information gain. Now, whichever is having high and that node will be selected as a split point. Then you further develop your decision tree. This is how you can deal with the continuous attribute. Then the next issue is, other than the information gain and entropy, what are the alternative measures you have for selecting the attributes? That we have to consider. So why we have this particular issue is, your information gain is having a natural bias. It is not perfect algorithm. It is partial to a certain data. So what is the bias in this? If you see this algorithm, it favors the attributes with many values over the attribute with fewer values. For example, now you consider that one of the attribute you have in the data set is date. What are the possible values I can have for date? Suppose if I collect the birthday date of all the students. Definitely in your class, many students may have the birthday date as March of a particular year. Okay, so I will collect so many dates for a given month itself. So in that case, what is going to happen is the date attribute is having large possible number of possible values. So because of that, whatever decision tree you are constructing, that will have highest information gain for this particular data. So because of this, what is going to happen is your model is not going to perfectly find all the testing samples, because in your class, if I give you that the date of examination is some March 3, and the number of many students pass the examination. It is not going to convey the meaning that if I conduct the examination on March 3, all the students will pass the examination. Okay, so definitely you should not select date as a decision attribute. But this ID3 algorithm is going to select date as a decision attribute because the date is going to have so many possible values. So this is a wrong concept. Okay, so the ID3 algorithm has a natural bias for the attributes which has many values over the attributes which has fewer values. So we have to overcome this bias. So now how to overcome this bias? So for that, instead of using only the information gain, so in the previous ID3 algorithm, we have seen that based upon the information gain, we are going to classify the nodes. But now, don't select only the information gain as the parameter for classification. Instead, you can go for something called as split information and then gain ratio. Split information is calculated by using a formula similar to our entropy formula. Okay, and in this, if an attribute is going to have many possible values, like date is having many possible values. In that case, split information will be higher in value. Okay, and we are calculating gain ratio by dividing the original gain we have used in the ID3 algorithm by this split information value. If attribute is having many number of possible values, the denominator split information will be larger in value. Because of that, when you divide gain by this larger value, your gain ratio will be smaller. So what is the point conveyed in this is, if your attribute is having many possible values, ID3 algorithm is partial to that. Now don't make it partial, because here what we are doing is we are calculating one more parameter, split information, and this will be again a larger value for an attribute with many values. So dividing a larger value by another larger value is going to give you a constant value in case of gain ratio. So we are overcoming that disadvantage in this. Okay, so instead of simply selecting gain, whenever you have attributes called date, go for split information and then gain ratio. And the next is how to handle the training examples with missing attribute values. So in the first module, we have seen that whenever you have missing data, you can replace the missing data by many attributes, like you can replace it with the mean value of that particular column, or otherwise median value, or otherwise mode value, or you can simply replace the missing data with some constant value for all the records. Okay, so we have seen so many possible approaches for handling the missing value. And here, when you go for decision tree, you have some other approaches to handle the missing value according to the decision tree structure. Now, let us see how to do that. Now, let us consider one example. When we will get this missing value? What is missing value? Missing value is nothing but for a particular attribute in a particular record, no value is entered. And why it is going to happen? For example, if I consider the medical domain, in that one of the attributes, that is nothing but the column, can be a laboratory test like blood test. If you take the blood test, then only you can enter the result in that particular column. Sometimes all may not be interested in taking the blood test. It's not that all the patients are following all the tests given by the doctors. If they don't have the money, they will not do some test and so on. There are so many constraints for that. So if a patient has not taken a blood test, then the blood test result is not available for that patient. Because of that, we have the missing value. Now, how the decision tree is going to handle this missing value? So in this, let us consider the situation where we are calculating the gain S comma A. It's nothing but S is nothing but your entire sample, and A is a particular attribute. Like you consider the plate NS, in that S is 14 records, and A is one of the attribute in that, maybe Outlook. Okay, now I want to calculate the gain S of A at a particular node N in the decision tree. Okay, in that what I will do? I will choose now whether the attribute A is the best attribute to test at that particular node or not. Okay, suppose if you have a training example, X comma C of X. Here X is nothing but collection of all the attributes and C of X is nothing but the target class of that particular record. Okay, so if you have X comma C of X as one of the training example and the value of the attribute A for this the record S X, that is nothing but A of X, is unknown. That is, it is missing. We have not entered the value for that particular attribute. Now our aim is, I want to calculate the value of this attribute for this particular record, because based upon this attribute only, I am going to construct the decision tree. Without knowing that attribute, I cannot divide that to any one of the branches. So I need to get the value of that attribute. For that, two strategies are followed. The first strategy is assign that attribute the value that is most common among the training examples at node N. Like this is, let me explain with this slide. Assume that this is a node N. You have reached up to this point. Now, here only you are not able to find the humidity. For example, you are not able to find the humidity for the particular node. It is missing. So what you will do is, till you reach here, you have certain records. You see out of those records, what is the most common value. Then you assign that as an attribute value for this particular node. That is one approach. And the second approach is, suppose the humidity is missing for a particular record, but the target class for that record is S. If that is the case, you see here only we have S. So whatever records you have in this particular case, see what is the most common value in that. You replace that value for this particular attribute. That is the second case. So in the first case, you are seeing all the nodes, whichever you have used for traveling from this branch to this branch, and whichever is the most common value in that, you are replacing that value. But in the second approach, once you reach here, if the current record is having the target class as S, you go to the S branch and see what is the value in that, which is a common value. You take that value and replace with this. So like that, you can handle with the missing values in case of decision tree. Okay. Now let us consider the next topic, how to handle attribute with the differing cost. With that, this will be over. Then we will go to the program. So what is the meaning of differing cost? So now, in certain machine learning problems, you will have so many attributes in your example. And it is not that you have to give equal importance to all the attributes in developing the decision tree. Some attributes will be having more importance than the other. Now, how to deal with those attributes? So in some learning task, the instant attributes may have associated cost. For example, if you consider the medical disease classification, let us assume that one of the attribute in that is temperature, another is biopsy result, another is the pulse value, another is the blood test result. Out of these four attributes, which are all the attributes have all the values for all the instances? Definitely, whenever you go to hospital, everybody can easily take the temperature with the help of thermometer. Similarly, you can check the pulse with the help of the oximeter. But all the patients will not go for the biopsy result. Similarly, all the patients will not go for the blood test result. So out of these four parameters, temperature and pulse will be available for all the records in your database, data set, whereas biopsy result and blood test result will not be available for all. So, which is given higher cost in this is temperature and pulse are given higher cost because that is having value for all the records, whereas biopsy and blood test result are given lower cost. Okay, so whenever you have attribute with the differing cost, how to handle those attributes? So we could prefer decision tree that use the low cost attribute where possible as a root node, because with this temperature, now you can divide your tree. And then with the pulse also, you can divide the tree. The reason is they have instances in all they have value in all the instances. Okay, so they have the high cost, use them for constructing the decision tree. Okay, suppose that is fine. It will work well for many of the cases, but in sometimes with the temperature and pulse alone, you cannot predict any disease. Okay, for example, if I want to predict about ovarian cancer, I have to go for biopsy result only. In that case, with the temperature and pulse, I cannot detect anything. So wherever possible, you use these attributes. Suppose if you want to go for specific test, then you have to construct decision tree with that only. So we need to handle that now. So for that, they have introduced another formula. Whenever you have attributes with the differing cost, that is, one attribute is having more importance than the other, but it is not having instance value for all the instances. So in that case, you can use this particular formula. So you calculate the gain, whichever is already having higher cost, you divide the original gain, square the original gain value, divide by this cost. For example, in the previous slide, temperature will be having highest value. Okay, and then pulse will be having highest value. But for temperature and pulse, now I should not give importance because I cannot predict ovarian cancer with the help of temperature. In that case, instead of simply using gain, I'll square the gain, divide that by the temperature, that is the cost of that particular column, so that it will give importance to the very important attribute like biopsy result.